go ahead and pivot and talk a little bit about your Utah Jazz, shall we?
Yes, yes, yes.
All right, man. There's no reason to bury the lead on this one. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Let's talk about the trades, shall we?
Yep. Trades. There's been all kinds of movements. Are the Jazz done? I don't think so.
Yeah, with a little bit less than 12 hours left-ish. A little bit more than 12 hours.
A little more than 12, yeah.
About 15, 16 hours left for the...
Also, you should probably not go that specific. I mean, maybe for the live stream.
That's true.
For any one of our videos that has zero relevance.
Other than the live stream. Yeah, exactly. And again, if you're watching this on the live stream, please jump in the comments. Let us know what you think. If you're listening to this on a podcast, we'd love to hear from you. Give us a rate and review for the channel there for sure. So let's go ahead and talk the trades. Let's start with the first one, Scoot, chronologically, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay.
The first one that kind of happened, right?
Yeah. So we're going to talk about starting with the Patty Mills and Drew Eubanks to the Clippers.
Yeah.
In return, the Jazz received PJ Tucker, Mo Bamba, and a second round pick with cash as well. Mo Bamba was waived by the Jazz on Sunday and is also reported by Michael Skoda from Hoops Hype that the Utah Jazz are expected to conduct a buyout of Tucker's $11.5 million contract if it can't be traded on the deadline. More on that to come later. AJ, what are your thoughts on this trade?
I mean, when I saw this happen, I just love it. And I'm sure you probably don't. But the fact is we had a player in Drew Eubanks and a great guard and a player that I really like in Patty Mills that we moved for even more draft considerations. And I know at some point you're like, we don't need any more draft considerations. We've got first round picks. We've got second round picks. We've got tons of them. But the fact is the Jazz are in this super sweet situation where we can just swoop these players up. And as long as we get something for it, who cares, right? They're coming onto our books. They're going off of our books. We'll make it. And it looks even better once we get to the next point.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Let's go ahead and jump into the comment there. You do have a comment there from Kinley Cutler. Said it's funny how you look at all these reports about how the new CBA might have killed the trade deadline, and it was going to be almost impossible to make trades for star players. Well, boy, did that not happen for sure.
All it's done is made it so that the hauls for these star players had to be much larger.
Right.
Like they're obviously you've got to match salaries and match contracts, and you've got to keep your roster within a certain length. So like it's made things a lot more interesting, but teams are still getting it done. They're still going to find a way to get the player that they wanted in the trade deadline.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the second round pick and the cash is really all the Jazz were concerned about on this trade for Patty Mills and Drew Eubanks. It helps the Clippers. It helps the Clippers get out of the second apron. So they're just doing some payroll dumping there. So that was great. But yeah, I think it's great for them to pick up a second round pick. Obviously, we know that PJ Tucker is not going to be in a Utah Jazz uniform. So this was basically just kind of us being in the middle of a trade to try to make things happen. Well, that was a direct trade, but they needed some depth there at the guard line for Patty Mills there for the Clippers. And yeah, it all makes sense. Let's go ahead and pivot on over to the next trade there.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and talk about the biggest blockbuster trade in NBA deadline history.
Possibly. No, it is. It is. 100%. Yeah. No, I mean, first of all, Dallas, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? This guy's 25 years old. You just dumped a 28-point-a-night player for Anthony Davis, who is hurt 97.65% of the time.
Yeah, I'm going to give my thoughts on that part here, but let me go ahead and take a step back when it comes to that. One of the first episodes we did on this channel was talking about the Kyrie Irving trade to Dallas.
Yeah.
We talked about how that was crazy, how that went down in the middle of the season, and how big of a deal that all was. Right?
That's crazy because that's 2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago, which is nuts. Thank you all for sticking with us for this long. Absolutely love it. Appreciate it.
Also, if you guys want a good laugh, go look at any of me and Darren's first episodes. They are hilarious.
It's great. Yeah, they're downstairs.
I'm a rambling mess. They're downstairs in Darren's basement, and they are very entertaining. But if you like good content, don't watch them for very long.
Yeah, filming on a GoPro camera. No lighting. It's great.
No lighting.
Lapel
mics. Yeah, mics are terrible. It's okay.
Amazon lapel mics.
It's a great time, though. It's great time. Good laugh.
Y'all got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so the Jazz are part of the biggest blockbuster trade of all time. The Jazz get a 2025 second round pick from the Lakers and the Clippers and pick up Jalen Hood-Schifino, who was the 17th overall pick in the 2023 draft, who will basically fill the spot on the bench that Patty Mills filled there. Now I have my thoughts on this, and we'll wrap up the conversation regarding the trade overall, but we can't not talk about that. But as a Jazz eternal optimist, AJ, please tell me, what do you think about how this trade helps the Jazz?
I mean, the best part about this trade is this trade's rough, right? Because the thing is we do own one of the Lakers picks for the future. So that didn't help us because obviously Luka Doncic is now playing for the Lakers. We own their pick. They're not going to be that bad. And we're probably looking at a later first round pick. But the good news is we did get Jalen Hood-Schifino. And there was a lot of rumors that earlier in the season, the Jazz were interested in acquiring him from the Lakers. And the Lakers actually weren't willing to part ways with them. So they wanted a little bit more compensation. You know, they had discussed probably some Walker Kessler type trades. The Jazz said, we want to make sure Hood-Schifino's in there. This kid's got a lot of upside. He's a very talented player. He's a first round pick. The Jazz liked him and they eventually got him, which is great to hear. And realistically, all the Jazz did was make sure that roster wise and cash wise, this trade worked out for obviously, you know, the Mavericks and the Lakers, but this is huge, dude. The Jazz get a player that they like. This continues to help them build the roster of young talent that match our timeline exactly the way we want it to. So this is a huge pickup if you like the little moves that equal the big move.
Yeah, I'd have to say there's two things optimistically I want to look at in this one. One is that it tells you that that's a blockbuster trade involving a major player to a small market franchise. I mean, Dallas isn't necessarily a smaller market, but
they are.
They're a smaller market. They're not LA. They're not New York. They're not Boston.
Yeah,
you know, they're a smaller market, and blockbuster trade could come out of nowhere. Yep. So the optimisms for Jazz fans that have faith in Danny Ainge to think that he can pull off another trade like he did in Boston, it's out there. This trade just happened, so there's some optimism there that the Jazz are part of it. And also the second part is the Jazz were part of this trade. They didn't come away with anything that I think really is going to be any good for this team. I mean, congratulations. You got another 6'5", 210-pound guard. Congratulations. We have like 5 of those. So way to go. You know, we got another draft pick. Awesome. You know, and yeah, I'll eat crow there if Jalen Hood-Schifino actually turns out to be anything. But
you're damn right you will.
You know, I just think it's another situation where the Jazz were used in a trade to kind of bolster up somebody else and kind of taken advantage of, and it's just more of the Jazz sleeping on it. It was released that the Jazz didn't know that Luka Doncic and AD were in this trade until about a half hour before the trade was announced. And they're saying, look, you either do this or you don't. We have 5 other teams lined up ready to do something for us. So the Jazz just kind of took it and ran with it. So I don't know, man. Before we move on from this trade, what are your thoughts on the trade overall about AD for Luka? And yeah, there's some role players involved, but what do you think about this trade? What are your thoughts, man?
My thoughts are the Mavericks are absolute idiots. The fact is if you've got issues with Luka's conditioning, because that's kind of like what came out after the trade happened, right? It's like, we were worried about his conditioning. He wasn't staying healthy. You know, he'd ballooned up to 260. We gave him like 10 or 11 days off to try to get back down to, you know, pretty much fighting weight, to stay competent and stay going in the league. If you have issues with Luka's conditioning, maybe stop getting rid of all the guys, because they'd fired 3 or 4 of the trainers that were actually helping Luka. They kept moving them.
Luka they got rid of the guys he liked.
All the guys that he liked that were actually helping him. Stop moving the guy.
Or doing what he wanted him to do.
And maybe it's doing what he wanted, but the fact is you've got one of the best players in the NBA on your team. Why do you move him for an Anthony Davis that's done absolutely nothing in the NBA.
Okay, let's pump the brakes on that one. Okay, so I understand Anthony, trading Luca, that's like ridiculous. Nobody should have done that. That's a dumb move. We could all agree on that part. But everybody's kind of everybody's kind of dunking on Anthony Davis here and making it sound like this guy's absolutely nothing. Where for the 5 games above this, he was averaging over 25 points, 11 boards, and like 5 assists over the last 5 games. Like this guy is like literally the only reason they won the bubble championship and is literally the second best player on a playoff team right now and was easily one of the top 10 players in the league not too long ago.
Right. But who's the number 1 player on the Lakers?
Right now, it's still LeBron James.
He's 38 years old. That's the problem. He's only the number
LeBron
2 player.
James is 40.
Oh, even worse. Okay, you're going the wrong direction, Darren. The fact is he's only the second best player on a team where their best player is 40 years old.
Yeah, I know why the Lakers did this change because they basically just said, "Look,
the Lakers absolutely do. They upgraded the shit out of their roster."
Did you hear the reason why they think the Dallas Mavericks made this trade?
No.
Did you hear this?
Maybe.
Okay, so the Dallas Mavericks owners are no longer Mark Cuban, right? He sold the
Correct.
majority owner to
no longer a majority owner
to this family, which forgive me, I'm not going to talk. I don't remember the name. Don't care. We're going to move on from the name, but basically they own a huge gambling stake in Vegas, and they put together some legislation for Texas to legalize gambling so they can build a new arena, build a hotel, and build a casino sports book in there. That got shut down. The Texas legislature said, no, thank you, no gambling in Texas. And so what they're saying is what they're doing is, while it was the GM that called the Lakers for this thing. First of all, another dumb move that you didn't open up to everybody. You just called the Lakers just because you wanted AD, which is dumb. A friend of the channel, Michael McKinnon, did send me something on Instagram that said that the guy who's doing this trade was the Nike representative that blew the Steph Curry thing.
Yeah.
The Steph Curry Nike deal. He was the one who blew that and used the Kevin Durant slides and changed out his name and called him Stephon. So this guy obviously does not know what the hell he's doing. But they're saying that the ownership group agreed to it because what they're doing now is they're going to leverage this to try and threaten the Texas legislature to have the team tank, get rid of all their talent, be one of the team that is hated by the fans, and then force the team to be relocated to Vegas.
Wow. That is a far stretch.
Yeah, this is a Dallas lawyer that did this. He's got inside info, and he's got a lot of lawyers from different teams in different sports to say this is a common thing that teams do, ownership groups do. It's either A, force the Texas legislature to agree, saying, hey, we have a professional sports team. You either legalize gambling for what we want to do, or we'll move your team. We'll move this team to Vegas. So that's the
where it can legally be betted on.
Yeah. Which is a conspiracy, which honestly, it doesn't make any sense to me because what the NBA is actually going to want to do is the amount of money that expansion team has to pay out to the other teams. It far outweighs the relocation fee. So there's no way the NBA is going to let that happen. David Stern. Still not the right guy. Who's the commissioner of the NBA?
Adam Silver.
Thank you. I'm one generation back. Sorry. Adam Silver has made it quite clear that he wants the first expansion team in the NBA to be in Vegas. So, I don't think that one's going to be worth it. The conditioning thing, it makes sense. They don't want to have, they didn't want to give a supermax deal to the next Zion Williamson, a guy who's gaining weight in the middle of the season when you're playing 40 minutes of basketball in the middle of the year, smoking cigarettes, drinking beer. I'd have to say, even though he's gaining weight, he's still dropping 30 in the NBA Finals. So that's kind of a stupid thing to be worried about. But
I'm so frustrated with this dude, though, because the fact is you talk about all these players and how they have no loyalty to their teams, right? I get it. It's real. Players are going where the money is. But you just cost this dude $118 million in contract signings because you didn't want to sign him to a supermax.
Well, he is injured, and he's never proven to you that he cares about conditioning whatsoever. So the energy, as a front office, you're going to see this as an injury situation is going to continue.
This team's in the NBA Finals last year.
It doesn't matter, dude. Are you going to pay supermax to Zion Williamson? Absolutely not.
Somebody will, though.
Yeah, and they would be an idiot, especially with the new the CBA the way it is. So I'm not agreeing with it. I'm just saying for the Mavericks situation, you're not going to give a supermax to a player that's missed like 25 games who won't stay in shape. You're not going to give that guy a supermax when he's simply being such a pain in the back end for you to deal with behind the scenes.
But also, Luka and Zion Williamson are much different players. Because Luka is a generational talent. Zion was just supposed to be a generational talent.
Yeah, Luka is actually on the field, on the court.
Luka is a top 5 NBA player right this minute.
Yeah, but the issue is that he's hurt now, and they're seeing this conditioning as being a precursor to a bigger issue.
Yeah, I get that. I don't know.
I don't agree with it. I'm just telling you where they're coming from.
Absolutely.
And it makes a lot of sense. But honestly, I think it's a little ridiculous. I don't know why they did it. And everybody's like, oh, the Mavericks just screwed the Luka out of $110 million. No, Luka did that. If he cared at all, he would be in shape all year long if he wanted to make that extra $100 million. I'm sorry. There's just, you want to be in charge of your own paycheck, you need to do something about it. And that is being in shape from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. It's that simple. You're getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars to play a kid's sport. Just suck it up and work out and just get it done, man.
We've got so many comments.
So jumping on that here, we got a few comments there we want to jump into. We've got that. We'll come down to this one here. I believe this is the first one. McKinley Cutler says, crazy that the Jazz don't want to trade.
Didn't know the trade for Luka until 30 minutes before the trade. All they knew is they are getting some seconds to help facilitate a trade.
Yeah, it's crazy that that's the case. But again, I think that was this case for all the teams. They all were sitting in that same position. They're all sitting in that same boat, right?
Correct.
So, so it kind of makes sense. It is crazy that they allowed it. I think that's why a bunch of teams the Jazz weren't the first pick. I think that's the reason why the other teams passed, because they're like, no, unless you're telling us to trade, we're not doing it.
Right.
They didn't want to. The
Jazz were like, we'll take some seconds in a player. Yeah, we want this guy. They're like, perfect. We'll send him.
Tell you what, I'll give you every one of our draft picks for Luka. We don't care if he resigns.
Yeah.
McKinley Cutler says, do you think the Jazz keep Jalen Hood-Schifino or let him walk after this season? That's a good question. Let me ask you that.
That's a great question. I think the Jazz like this guy. If he gets some playing time, which I think this is the season you will see him play in, if they do get him on the floor and he's even remotely productive, I think they probably keep him.
I think so too. I think he's going to get the Patty Mills minutes, and I think he's going to get some extra minutes from another player that will be moved by the deadline, which is something we actually are going to talk about here in a minute. So we'll see what happens there. Actually, no, he's not going to get the Patty Mills minutes because we have to talk about another trade, which we'll get into in a minute.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I don't know. I think if he shows out for at least a little bit for this team,
I think he's got a chance to make.
He's got a shot
for sure. Just stick around. Yeah,
we can always use a 6'5" guard on this team. Why not? All right, McKinley Cutler says the Mavs GMs might need protection.
Gets fired in a year.
Yeah, I think you mentioned in the press conference. I'm not thinking more than 5 years down the road because neither me or Jason Kidd are going to be here. I think that's just a spot on, analysis of his situation.
That's just real life in the NBA, though.
Yeah, I think he's being a little bit optimistic. He's not making it 2 years. They did stage a protest where there was about 50 or 60 fans outside the Mavs arena chanting,
upset
sell
fans.
The team. Chanting, sell the team the whole time. That's crazy.
Which is funny because the GM made the move, not the owner.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, you hired the GM. It's time to fire his, you know what. The Luka trade was going to happen no matter what. It's a good thing. The Jazz should have taken advantage of the moves like I
agree. The Jazz got something for nothing out of this trade. That's such a great point.
Absolutely. And this is my point there that I've been arguing for the last year and a half. We need a star. Yes. Utah Jazz need a star.
We have one. Lauri Markkanen.
No, he's not a superstar. He's not a top 5 player.
It didn't say superstar. It said star.
Okay. We have a former all-star on our team.
Thank you.
We do not have a top 10 player in the NBA on our team. We don't have a top 5, which is what every single NBA champion has had in the last 10 years.
Is Lauri top 20 though?
He's top 20, but he's not top 5. He's not even top 10. That's not going to win you a ring. So we need a star. We don't have one. There's nobody on the team that even looks close to being one. So yeah, the Jazz needed a star, and I'll say it to the day I die. The day they traded the team's best players in Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, they should have started the rebuild then. They should have got an opportunity to get Victor Wembanyama, and they just missed it. They missed the boat, man, and they have not proved to me that since then they're doing what it takes to actually build a contender. Look forward to this rebuild going way beyond, way into maybe even 2030.
No. Next comment.
Give me anybody on this team other than marketing that's going to be
the thing is, dude, is we
at least even a role player on
but
a
the thing
championship
is
team.
we continue to acquire assets, right? And I know you don't want to say that, oh, you have all these assets, but the fact is we're going to be able to convince somebody at some point to make a trade for somebody's going to go into a rebuild.
We tried for Par George. We tried for.
But we didn't have the assets we have now.
Yeah, we did.
No,
we have a bunch of seconds.
We
now.
have even more.
Yeah, we have seconds now. We had a bunch of firsts.
But we've got to get a team going into a rebuild. That's the thing is we're in a rebuild. We've got to find a team going back into a rebuild. And that's when you dish them out.
Every single major player. Every single major player that was traded for the Jazz were in on and didn't get. Because nobody wants to come here. And they realize that it needs to be done through the draft. They're not going to trade for anybody. Nobody's going to be except this is a player empowerment league. Everybody's blocking trades. Even Damian Lillard, who was here in Utah for 4 years.
Didn't block a Utah trade, did he?
Yeah.
I don't recall that.
Oh, wait. It's not Damian Lillard. It's not Damian Lillard.
Brandon Ingram.
It's Drew Holiday.
Drew Holiday blocked it.
He blocked, yeah.
Yeah, Damian Lillard didn't.
Yeah.
He would have come back to Utah.
No, he wouldn't have.
Oh, he absolutely.
He wanted to go to a contender. That was his number one thing. The next comment. The only way the Jazz will win is to get Michael Jordan.
GOAT.
Yeah, let's
Agreed.
do it.
Agreed.
100% agree. 100% agree. AJ, but the Bansta, though, is a good option. He is the top 5 player in the SEG's payroll right now.
Yeah, but I don't know if he's Michael Jordan. Let's not take it too far here.
No, but he is definitely the closest thing to the next LeBron that this league has right now as far as prospects go. But anyway, personally, I would believe the conspiracy theory that Luka's trade was 1,100 IQ move so the owners can move the team to Vegas. Yes, you don't trade a player like Luka unless he forces his way out. It's just an ownership group that's just not basketball first. They're not a team. They're not an ownership group that cares about basketball. They care about real estate. They care about being a commercial developer. If you don't give them what they want
that sounds very
Texas,
familiar.
Exactly. Like you bullied a team into giving you $1 billion, or you're going to move the team to Daybreak. Sorry, not to Daybreak, but to the South Point of the mountain. But give me $1 billion to stay downtown. So it sounds very familiar. But anyway, so they're just not a basketball team. They're just not a basketball ownership. So it's really kind of sad, but we'll see what happens there. Or maybe the GM really hated Luka on a personal level. He's been throwing shade nonstop as soon as the trade went down.
That's a great point, though. Like he could have very well had something in for him. Like, I just don't like this dude.
I absolutely love Luka. I love watching him play. His shoes are awesome. He's a great player. But man, does that guy complain on the court, man. Like next to Chris Paul, there's not a bigger whiner on calls in the NBA than Luka Doncic. And which is really sad because I actually really love that guy when he's playing basketball. But
great basketball player.
Unfortunately, on a 24-second shot clock, he's complaining 12 seconds and only playing like 10. So I can see someone being upset with him.
He's almost as bad as LeBron.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't flop, so he's better than LeBron. So you're going to have a flopper and a complainer on the same team. This is going to be great. Dude. Adam Silver looks like he...
Like an orc from Lord of the Rings.
Spot on, man.
That's a great point.
Spot on. We also have another comment here from McKinley here. It says, I think it's closer to 160 million. It also makes it worse that he was about to move into a new multi-million-dollar mansion that would have been finished construction.
I saw that. It was like $15 million. He had just signed on it too at his home in Dallas. Yeah.
Oh, geez. It's hard to complain about a guy that got you to the Western Conference Finals twice. And the finals all before the age of 25. Yeah, he's been top team All NBA all 5 years he's been in the league. You just don't trade that guy. You mark my words. This is what I want to say on this one before we move on to the next trade. You mark my words. There will be the curse of Luka on this one. This will happen.
Yeah.
Curse of the Babe, the Billy Goat curse in baseball. Exact same thing. This is going to be a curse in the NBA. The Dallas Mavericks are not going to win a championship for at least 10, 15 years because of this. This is going to be a curse. This is hexing the franchise. Mark my words. Anyway, we have a few more things we want to get close. We want to hit on here. Let's go ahead and get to McKinley's comments. The press conference was hilarious. Kid was not having it. He looked like he's pissed the whole time. Yeah, dude, Jason Kidd, why are you showing up to a press conference with a backwards hat and a hoodie, dude. Who are you trying to fool? You're like 50 years old, man. Come on. Come on.
Maybe he's trying to fool the press. He don't want to know he was there.
Yeah. So why don't you just have somebody else spill some more water on you like you did last time? Let's see. Things change in the league so fast. It just takes one crazy thing to happen for a team to go from the bottom to the top of this league. Yes, but the history and the luck is not in the Jazz favor. Their draft luck in the last 20 years has not been great. They have never moved up in the draft since the draft lottery has been in place. So you can think about luck, or you can think it's just the NBA not wanting a top pick for the Utah Jazz or a top pick coming here. So I don't know. We'll see. Definitely a little bit more than just luck on that one for sure. I'm a big conspiracy tinfoil hat guy on that one. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the last trade. This went down probably about an hour ago?
Yeah, pretty close to an hour ago. Today.
So break down the new trade.
So this is the most recent blockbuster, and once again the Jazz are involved in this massive blockbuster deal, but just playing a little tiny eensy weensy part.
Bigger role than the last one.
It's
bigger role than the last one.
That's true. So the Miami Heat are sending Jimmy Butler to the Golden State Warriors. Obviously, he's the centerpiece of the trade. That deal will include Andrew Wiggins going to the Heat, as well as a number of other players. And the deal for the Jazz, they are sending recently acquired PJ Tucker to the Heat, and the Jazz are receiving Dennis Schroeder from the Warriors, as well as a 2031 second-round pick from the Warriors. So this pick will be the less favorable from either the Heat or the Pacers, that 2031 pick are. So there's 4 teams involved in this one. Golden State's receiving Butler. Miami is getting Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, PJ Tucker. The Detroit Pistons are acquiring Lindy Waters from the Warriors and Josh Richardson from the Heat, and the Jazz are getting Dennis Schroeder. So 4 teams, players going everywhere. The Jazz get a small pick. They obviously get Dennis Schroeder back and a future second round pick. What are your thoughts, man? How do you feel about Dennis Schroeder?
I like this pick, Ben. I really like this pick. I think Dennis Schroeder is a great player. He balls out in Eurobasket when he plays for Team Germany.
He's an effort player, dude. The dude's got a motor.
He's got a motor. He's got a brain on him. He knows how to pick the right spots. He knows when to drive. He knows when to kick. This is a guy who knows how to run an offense, and he's proven it in every stop in his NBA journey. The fact that no team has kept him for more than a couple of years is actually kind of insulting. This player is really, really good at running an offense. At minimum, he is a great backup guard on a championship qualified team. So absolutely love this guy. I've wanted him on the Jazz for years. Think he's a perfect fit.
I agree. And the next reason he's a perfect fit? Because he's got a $13 million expiring contract. So
that always helps.
He could very well end up being another one of these trade pieces for the Jazz. Who knows? It'll be curious to see if the Jazz do keep him on the roster, because with that expiring contract, he could be in and outed, right? So obviously watch the Jazz's Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, see if they actually introduce him. They did introduce PJ Tucker. They ended up moving, but like both these players were never actually with the team. Guaranteed the Jazz are still trying to make moves, and we still got, a few hours before the trade deadline lines up. So
I think if the right deal comes along, they'll probably move him. I don't think they re-sign him. It'd really be really cool to see him suit up for the Jazz for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
It does kind of hurt them in their goal of not winning games right now to have a competent guard. So, that's,
which really just moves us directly into what our next subject is on this too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. For the Utah Jazz.
Okay.
Competent guard and Keontae George.
Yes. Let's go ahead and talk about that. So, let's go ahead and pivot on over to that. Do you want to hit these comments? There's quite a few of them in there.
Is there a bunch more?
Yeah.
Well, let's get them.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, right here. This is where we're at.
Yeah.
McKinley Cutley says, right before the Jazz game started, a little over an hour and a half ago, does Dennis play for Utah? I think he does.
Didn't Dennis? Well, he said, "Don't Dennis play?" Didn't he? I'm assuming he's saying, "Didn't he play at Utah?" I don't think he has played for Utah before.
No, I don't think so. I don't think Dennis Schroeder ever played for Utah. Did he play for Utah, like a college team?
No,
I don't think
for sure.
I think he came straight from Germany. So, but I don't know. We'll see on that one. But yeah, I don't think.
Oh, okay, yeah. Just checked. He didn't play at Utah.
Okay, great. Yeah, he didn't play his college.
He didn't play
ball.
college ball, period.
Yeah, so that makes sense. But yeah, so I think he does play for Utah. I don't know if you can package him in a deal for anything else at the trade deadline.
If not, you're welcoming his $13 million expiring contract for sure.
Yeah, but he is going to kind of throw a wrench in things on helping the team lose. But let's go ahead and talk about another Utah Jazz guard, which is Keontae George. Now, we talked a little bit about this last week when we talked a little bit about the recent surgence of Isaiah Collier at the point guard spot, the starting point guard spot, which, by the way, he continues to do well. He continues to put up like 7 or 8 assists a night on a team that's not trying to win, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I think this guy's really kind of making a case that he's going to be on this team when they actually are going to be a playoff team. So I think that'd be great. Either that or they're just trying to showcase him to trade him, one of the two. We'll see what happens there. But we found out the real reason why this player is basically starting, and it has more to do with Keontae George than it does Isaiah Collier. So as reported on ESPN 700, The Drive with Spence Checketts, they actually had Andy Larson on, and he had some inside info when it talks about that when it comes to why Keontae George is on the bench now that he's healthy. And he said it's 100% about the fact that the Utah Jazz are actually upset with his lack of effort on the defensive end. And this is more a punishment for Keontae than it is a promotion for Isaiah, and getting him to actually put more effort in on the defensive end.
Yeah.
They wanted to work on his defense. They wanted to work on his defensive assignments. He's actually come out and said that there's not been a coach in his basketball career that's gotten on him as much as Coach Hardy has about his defense. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's kind of funny because he's also come out and said that like he feels like he's made a huge jump on defense, but he does say, well, honestly, I think I have a little bit more, that I could possibly provide. This is huge. And this is huge for a couple of reasons, right? Keontae is a potential star in the future for this Utah Jazz team. And the fact that Will Hardy is holding him accountable right now when Keontae should be playing, it really sets a precedent that the Jazz are going to be competing sooner rather than later, in my opinion. So when I say some of this stuff, it's because the fact is Will Hardy's coached this team very well. At this point, we're putting extra effort in to make sure that we're not winning basketball games, right? And yeah, he's going out there and telling Keontae, you need to improve your defense, because you know what? Keontae, with his elite size, he's an elite scorer. Even with his very limited ability to play in some of these games, if he can become a defensive weapon and he can guard a Steph Curry-like player, a De'Aaron Fox, if he can stay in front of these guys, Keontae George isn't ever going to come off of the floor. Because he's that good of a scorer. He's a great distributor. He's transitioning to be an off-ball two guard. He's transitioning from being an off-ball two guard to becoming the Jazz's primary ball handler. Right? He's actually taking the ball up the floor, and he's going through all of these like decision making, like making these decision making errors to becoming somebody that the Jazz can trust with the basketball in their hands.
So I like where you're coming at.
Yeah.
I love the internal optimism that you have when it comes to the Utah Jazz.
Always.
But if this boy doesn't if this player, Keontae George, if this guy, this young kid, I say boy because he's young. I'm like 40.
and he's like 20.
He's like 20. So I say boy because he's young. But anyway, this young man, if he doesn't start playing defense, he's not going to be in the NBA. He just doesn't. He's not an elite scorer. Not even close. Right now, he's shooting 38% from the field. From the field, AJ, 38%. He's not even 50% from the field, from a player who he's either pulling up and shooting the three, which he's shooting less than 30% from beyond the arc, and his driving and scoring at the basket, he's not even averaging over 50% from the field on that. He's below 50% from the field. He is way inconsistent. He's way streaky, and he just simply just not playing on defense basically is going to put him in a situation where he's A, no longer going to be in the league, or B, going to be off this team. He has to prove that he's going to be a defensive weapon for this team, and he has to work on being more consistent on the offensive end. I do not see this kid ever being an all-star. I was a big player. I was a big champion for this kid. I thought he had the chance to have a Donovan Mitchell type rise when we drafted him, but he's done absolutely zero to improve as a player since that time. And every opportunity the Jazz have given him, he is not taking advantage of. He needs to take advantage of this time coming off the bench to show that he can play some defense. If not, don't expect him to be in the league after this year.
I disagree, because Keontae, as much as he has struggled efficiency-wise, he'll get a shot somewhere to continue playing, even if he doesn't play defense. I think the fact is Will Hardy does want him long-term on this team. And if he can prove that he can be a defensive, I think getting Keontae engaged defensively will help him be effective offensively on that side of the ball, right? The fact is Keontae is a fantastic player who has these shines and streaks of greatness. And if he can continue to make that just a little bit more consistent, he's going to be just fine, right? He does need a coach to make sure that he's holding him accountable. And that's exactly what Will Hardy's doing. And as long as Keontae is realizing that this is what I need to do to stay in the league, he'll be okay. That's my thought. The kid's good, dude. This kid is a baller.
I want him to be good, man. I really do. I mean, he is averaging almost close to 6 assists a game over the last 10 games. His 3-point percentage has gone up. He's now at a whopping 33% from the 3 line, so that's great. He's now back into 30%. Field goal percentage of the last 10 games is 38.9%, which is not good. Not good at all.
But do you have his average minutes per game?
Average minutes per game is 31.3 minutes per game.
Yeah, okay, that is a lot of minutes. I didn't think he was playing quite that much.
Yeah, against the Warriors tonight, he's 15 minutes. Pacers 31 minutes. He was 5 for 13 from the field, 4 from 11 from 3. Getting 11 assists and 8 rebounds though. He's definitely got the ability to. He's really cut down on turnovers, so I'll give him that. But he definitely has not been where I've would have liked to have seen him at this point for sure. But I'm open to being wrong on that one, man. I hope he proves my old me right and current you right and turns it around, because unless he becomes a defensive lockdown player, I just don't see him really having a shot with this team.
Yeah, I think he's got it. I'd be surprised if he doesn't turn it around.
I hope he does. Does. We'd love to hear from you folks. Let us know what you think in the comments down below about your boy Keyonte George, KG3, as I coined him back in the day. That's right. It's trademarked. That's
trademarked.
Right.
Make sure nobody takes that.
That was ours.
Property of DNA Sports Recap.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, we did just launch a channel for you Utah Jazz called the Utah Jazz DNA. All of our Utah Jazz content will be posted here first. So if you have not yet, check out that channel. Subscribe to that channel. We'll be giving away one of those sick new statement jerseys, one of those road black jerseys. Super awesome. They're super sick. Once this channel hits 1,000 subscribers, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on that giveaway. And also make sure you smash that like button for your boy AJ. Check out that t-shirt that I have down there for you, Utah Jazz.
Boom.
I designed it yourself. I designed it myself for you guys. Check it out.
Designed it yourself. You designed it too.
Exactly.
Your
absolutely
support
did.
designed it.
Absolutely. But yeah, so good stuff, man, on the Utah Jazz. Good stuff. You want to hit any of these comments? Do we get?
Yeah, let's just run through the comments real quick, but we got to move because we've got a lot more content.
I just wanted to see if the Jazz end up moving any of the players that they apparently have been on the market this entire season. Yep, they have been.
I'm also very curious to see if they actually do move a John Collins or some of these guys that have been on the market.
Collins' contract is hard to move. The talent isn't really the problem with Keyonte. It's all about effort. And honestly, I get it's hard to give 100% when you're tanking,
especially as a 20-year-old.
Very fair point.
I think that's kind of some of my point, right? Like the fact is you're not telling them, right? I don't know how these conversations work. We can't win ball games, but I need you guys to go out there and give everything you have and lose.
Yeah, I think it's kind of obvious there. If you can see the effort on defense, if you see him not making defense,
I think that's the problem. There's X amount of minutes where it's like you need to show me everything you got in these minutes.
Yeah.
The first quarter, I want you to give everything you have. We can lose the game in the other 3.
Mm-hmm.
I want you guys to go 100% in the first quarter. He goes out there, shit effort. Okay, Keyonte, I need you to do X, Y, Z to make sure that this is who we're going to be in first quarters of games. When we're trying to win, this is who I need you to be. So curious to see how it works out.